So I go back to an appointment with that neurologist in Fairfax, and she's literally so incompetent. Now what I find out from other doctors is that the way my presentation on my body was, what happens is, you have patients hospitalized long term in the hospital for months, and they have all kinds of really severe conditions, and they have all kinds of tubes and stuff all over their body, inserted in their chest and so forth. So those kind of patients get these kind of problems. But no one, now, nobody who, now I did have some pre-existing cardiovascular conditions and some stenosis in my carotids that kept the blood from reaching properly to the head, but a lot of more sick people than that go into a MRI facility and get the contrast, and unless you have an alert, you have an allergic reaction, which I didn't, or if your kidneys are really bad, which mine weren't, and so you really should have a problem. So she was so incompetent, and she also had this guilty conscience that she was wrong. And because what happened is, when she saw all that, she thought that all the cardiovascular symptoms she missed, that she missed previously, that they were what led to the problem. But it really, they had some contribution, because that's why the guy went nuts. But it's because the guy at the MRI place went nuts is why the problem happened. Because as she had ordered the intravenous injection, that was done, and there was no problem with it. So this guy went beyond and did something wrong. So she's really confused, and she figures, she thinks she did something wrong and not the MRI tech. So she's in full cover-up mode. Then she, at the end of the visit, she goes back and she alters the records from the first visit. And the incredible thing is, she goes back and she deletes the order for the test. Now, in malpractice type situations, what a doctor is supposed to do is, when they order a test or something and something goes wrong, they're supposed to go back and bolster it. You add more support, you give more reasoning for why you ordered the test in the first place. You don't go and delete it. Everyone knows that you ordered the test. I could not have had the test without her. And also the other place, they have the records saying that she ordered the test. So, and then she didn't even notice one of the unusual things about the report which came from the MRI facility. It really looks like the technician himself. Now the technician wasn't that fluent. Well, he wasn't that good with English, and supposedly the radiologist is Harvard and Columbia educated. At the same time, on the MRI report itself, it is signed. It looks like this MRI tech forged the other guy's signature. Now, it's not an actual signature, but it says, how it says, this record has been electronically signed. But instead of saying electronically signed, it says electrically signed. Now that's hilarious, isn't it? Because in the first place, the radiologist, he would have a template which says this record has been electronically signed, and it kind of comes automatically when he does this report. So obviously this guy typed it up, and he didn't even know that it's supposed to be electronically and not electrically. So and then the report itself, just didn't sound like it was like done by an actual radiologist. Okay, so this tech basically made it up. So, but still, she kind of knows that she's kind of incompetent, because the thing is with her, after she finished her neurology residency, nobody hired her for like 6 years. Now, in the first place, she was like an ophthalmologist in India, which I'm from India, so I know. If you're an ophthalmologist in India, you're basically like an optometrist. So you're like the person at LensCrafters who does the eye exams, okay? And so she was doing that job. She came to the US, she did her whole medical stuff all over again, and she did a neurology residency. And after doing her neurology residency, nobody hired her for like 6 years until this guy did, because that's what he does. This guy, the head of the practice, he even calls his practice Innova Alpha Neurology. If you see the alpha word, you know, if you're a Christian, we know who Alpha is, you know, and Alpha is not him, but he obviously sees himself as Alpha, and nobody else wants to work for him, so he gets the bottom of the barrel neurologist. So yeah, she's in full cover-up mode. And then, to change the topic, she actually wants to treat me for migraine headaches, even though her own writing says that I haven't had a migraine headache since 2005. So she's treating me for in 2013, she's treating me for a migraine headache from 2005, 8 years ago. So, you know, the first medication, whatever she gave, it had some side effects, but it didn't cause any lasting harm. But, you know, a few months later, you know what she said, she's going to give me one medication at a time. And to keep the lie, you know, to maintain the lie, and to hide the other stuff which had happened, she wants to keep this migraine treatment going on, and she literally prescribes the worst medicine possible. I mean, you know, she goes and prescribes the medicine called verapamil. Now, verapamil is, even for migraines, is hardly ever used because there are so many better choices. Then if someone has high blood pressure, even there you have so many better choices. I mean, verapamil literally works on the heart, and you have to be really careful when you give it to patients with, you know, already pre-existing, you know, heart conditions. And so, you know, why bother? You know what I'm saying? So this, you know, even if you're treating for migraine, you have so many better choices, and even for high blood pressure, you have so many better choices. So who really uses verapamil? Like cardiologists. Cardiologists, when they are, you know, they operate on a patient's heart, they're really familiar with the patient's heart. They give verapamil and a whole bunch of other medications to those patients, but it's for like particular conditions. But literally what verapamil does is verapamil goes and weakens the heart. And that's exactly what it did to me permanently. So she actually, just to keep me out of the way, she prescribes a high dose, even though for migraines you're supposed to start off with a low dose, and I never had migraines anyway at that point. I didn't have it for 8 years, so I don't know what the heck she was doing. And so she prescribes a high dose, and she gives me a 90-day supply. You know, it says 2 auto refills, just to keep me out of the way. But still I start getting all my cardiovascular symptoms, you know, and so within 5 days I stop. And unlike my previous cardiovascular symptoms, which I did not even recognize them to be cardiovascular symptoms, oh yeah, these I recognize. Oh yeah, shortness of breath, sweating and excess sweating and all when I go walk up the hill with minimal exertion, you know, all these problems. But still I gave it a chance. I kind of went 2 months and see if it gets better. It didn't. After 2 months, I wrote a letter to her and just described what's going on. And usually what would happen is the nurse from the office should contact the patient, but this time a manager contacted me, and he's, you know, and that was really because I'll tell you what was really going on secretly. And the manager was really nice and saying that, hey, you know, the doctor's reading everything and she's got it all taken care of, and you just have to come in for an appointment and everything will be okay. And he was very friendly. And the great thing is he put it all down in writing, so I have the evidence against him. So I have the evidence of the symptoms I told them I have, and I have the evidence of them saying that everything is going to be okay, and I just have to come in for an appointment. But now when I went to the appointment in September, yeah, I figured out what was going on. So when I had sent that letter in, I didn't even complain to anyone, and they had already assembled what's called a risk management team. And if the risk management team decided to treat me, it was good. But essentially, they turned out to be a death panel, because what they did is they were trying to figure out how to conceal the evidence. Even though my heart was harmed, and still they're looking to see how to conceal the evidence. So the reason they set up the appointment is what I figured out. When I went to the appointment in September, nothing really took place in the appointment. The doctor actually had the nerve. She opens up saying, "How can I help you today?" As though nothing ever happened before, you know. And then when I mentioned the verapamil, she goes, "Did I prescribe verapamil?" with a really dumb look on her face. "Yeah, it's on the prescription bottle. You prescribed verapamil," you know. So what they were doing is they called me in for a medical appointment, telling me they're going to give me diagnosis and treatment. But the reality is, the reason they called me in is for an appointment. They wanted to test me. They wanted to see, you know, what kind of evidence shows up and how much I can convince another doctor. Basically, it's like opposition research. So, and then later on, so I went to another doctor, and the doctor asked me to get better records from these people, and these people don't give me the better records, and I'm just pestering them and after them, trying to get them to straighten things up. And then they do nothing. They just ignore me, but I have all the evidence of my contacts with them. And then I go in to have a simple root canal, and I had a similar procedure a year before. I didn't have any problem. But this time, because the two conditions that took place, the harm that the MRI facility did and the harm that this doctor did by prescribing verapamil and harming my heart, well, at this point, the anesthetic basically goes right into my head, into my brain, and causes like more numbness and dizziness and so forth, and even like some hearing and vision problems for me. So I never had a problem before with the anesthetic, at the dentist's office, and I know that the endodontist did nothing wrong. It was this doctor who was hiding the information, and so I could not present it to the dentist. And it would just happen to be this doctor's bad luck that she chose the very same day, which was September 24, 2013, that I was at the dentist's office. She chose a day to say that she gave me a telephone consultation. Well, I was tied up at the dentist's office all day with my root canal and with the complication from the anesthesia. How could I possibly have had a consultation with her? So she puts this down on her record, and she has no evidence to prove that's what happened. So, and then further down the road, I try to get the records. They tell me I can come and get it from their office. When I do show up at the office to get it, I'm very polite. The office staff already likes me, so you got to know what's going on. And there's really no problem going on there. And so what happens is,